with us or you are with the terrorists. The Taliban regime is coming to an end.
There is war. I need to take the risks.
Taliban took over everything in 10 days. The coalition forces signing a peace agreement.
I will not abandon my people.
Left the country in a big misery.
I'm willing to die for my country.
That was an amazing day. I was in Doha, February 29th in 2020. There was a big ceremony. Taliban were very jubilant and they were very happy, excited of finally getting an agreement, recognition from their opponent, from occupier power, from US and coalition forces, signing a peace agreement.
Mullah Zaif, who's sitting there, and other Taliban leaders say they are extremely happy that this agreement is finally taking shape between the United States and the Afghan Taliban.
Negotiation was a result of, based on the judgment that we weren't winning the war, and therefore time was not on our side, and better to make a deal sooner than later, and that's what we did.
How are you? Good to see you.
اصل کې لکه په هغه ورځ چې ما تاسو ته اظهار وکړو چې دغه ورځ ته موږ امید درلود چې داسې ورځ به را روانه ده. اصل کې د موږ خلق ظاهري اسبابو ته ظاهري شیانو ته ګوري. الحمدلله د دې عقیدې کار ډېر بدل وي. دا به زه په حقیقت سره ورته وایم چې الله تعالی موږ ته دا امیدونه په هغه ورځ هم راکړي چې په کومه ورځ امریکا افغانستان ته راغله چې یوه ورځ به داسې راځي موږ به دلته په دې کابل کې بیا فاتحانه ناسو دلته بیا د اشغالګرو وجود پاکیږي.
US Taliban deal was for sure a death sentence for Ghani and his government.
If there is war, I'm the commander-in-chief. I will not abandon my people. I will not abandon my forces. I'm willing to die for my country.
Rather than that we pressed Ghani too much, it's my judgment that we didn't press him hard enough.
Actually, Ashraf Ghani could play a better role. He could play a sensible role in bringing peace to Afghanistan. He betrayed his country, he betrayed his people, and he left the country in a big misery.
Within 24 hours, of course, the Afghan military collapsed completely, opening Kabul up to the Taliban's advance.
One of the big questions we have to ask ourselves, why the Afghan army did not fight. And the biggest difficulty was that President Ghani and a few other Afghan leaders did not believe that we were serious about withdrawal for a long time. And they liked the status quo compared to a political settlement in which they might not have the jobs that they had. They miscalculated the effects of the continuing war. They were not serious about a political settlement. Those are also facts that impacted the situation.
Once the Taliban started fighting directly the ANDSF, Afghan National Forces, as the forces were not having any national foundations. They were not coherent on defending the country. They were more politicized. Their leadership was more corrupt and incompetent. They couldn't resist the very small offense of Taliban, and they left district by district, and those fallout has created a domino effect, and then finally we had province by province, and Taliban took over everything in 10 days.
Our plane lands on the military side, where landings and takeoffs are controlled by the Americans. We see a military transport vehicle with a group of evacuees taking shelter under its wings. Military transport planes, not just from NATO, but also from the Middle East, can be seen on the tarmac. The terminal comes into view, and the symbols of ousted Afghan President Ashraf Ghani. After circling the tarmac and all forms of aircraft, both active and abandoned, for 5 hours after landing, we finally stop.
Hey, send them down, I'm gonna take them.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Thank you.
We are led down the stairs by a young US serviceman. Once down, we see a line of Afghan evacuees.
These evacuees working for the World Bank are going to take this flight, about 350 of them, and head to Islamabad.
It was a brain drain evacuation. Many very intelligent people, many those that they have learned many skills, language skills, computer and technology skills, they left the country.
In total, U.S. and coalition aircraft combined to evacuate more than 123,000 civilians, which were all enabled by U.S. military service members who were securing and operating the airfield.
That's you, in the middle.
Yeah, in the middle. This one.
And this is in Kandahar.
This is Kandahar, yeah. I'm living here in Kabul. I was working over 10 years with the U.S. Army and U.S. Special Forces interpreter. Don't let us behind here in Afghanistan because the situation is very bad. The Taliban is trying to searching every individual houses, and they're looking for those allies they are working with, the American peoples or with the coalition forces. Right now we don't have any ways to escape from Kabul, and just we are looking for some ways who's gonna help us and who's gonna take our hands to take out
Do you have family members?
Yes, I have family. I have me and my wife and my 3 kids. The Taliban says to like afi umumi, it means like we don't want to say anything, but I didn't see anything in the practically. They say only on the media to we are not say anyone to come work, but I'm sure if the Taliban is sitting on the chair, if they understand they are allies of the United States, they are not let us to be alive. Because right now we are left behind.
How many of them are there, like you?
If I know it's like 100 families or 200 families. I have a lot of documents. I have
so about 1,000 people?
1,000 people, yeah. I have documents, I have a letter, I have everything that I'm left behind. I don't know where I should go, with whom I should contact.
حضرت عمر رضی الله عنه چې امیر المؤمنین دی خلفای راشدینو کې هغه ځان ته دغه کلمه لیکلې وه اذا دعتک قدرتک علی ظلم الناس فتذکر قدرت الله علیک. کله چې تا قدرت تا په خلکو باندې ظلم ته وهڅوي نو ته د الله تعالی قدرت ته یاد کړه چې په تا باندې لري خو تا ته څه نه وایي. نو موږ دا کوشش دی موږ ټولو د مشرانو چې موږ د خدای تعالی دپاره هغه چې حقوق الله وګراغلي وو نور ډېر څه هغه باندې موږ سترګې پټو خلک سره په اسلامي اصولو مخ شو. الله تعالی د هغوی اصلاح وکړي. دا یو ګډ وطن دی، د دې لپاره ټول په ګډه کار کوو.
The way that the US and many other countries, they occupied the airport and they called for everybody to come to the airport and they will be taken and boarded in the airplanes standing there. It was a disaster.
The Taliban have been trying to control the situation using fire engine and fire hoses to push back the crowds, also resorting to aerial firing. But as you can tell, that's not stopping people from trying to make their way here, because the Taliban are saying rumors are being spread via WhatsApp and social media that anyone who shows up here can catch a flight to outside of Afghanistan. And that means a lot of people are showing up without any documents, no passports, no visas, nothing, in the hopes of catching a flight from here, but that's impossible.
We will hunt you down and make you pay.
Well, I just heard another explosion in the distance, and we're getting reports of gunfire in an area called Darul Salam. That's where the
2 suicide bombers, assessed to have been ISIS fighters, detonated in the vicinity of the Abbey Gate at Hamad Karzai International Airport and in the vicinity of the Baron Hotel, which is immediately adjacent. The threat to our forces, particularly from ISIS-K, was very real and tragically resulted in the loss of 13 service members and dozens of Afghan civilians.
Every nation in every region now has a decision to make.
I think US made a big mistake invading Afghanistan. They toppled down Taliban. They spent more than $1 trillion. They bring billions of ammunitions. They brought an ideology very much westernized by the name of democracy to Afghanistan.
no Afghan was involved in crashing any planes into any buildings on 9/11/2001. But this is arguably the country that suffered the most. This was America's longest ever foreign engagement, so to speak. And it happened because of those planes going into the Twin Towers in the Pentagon.
رښتیا هم چې په دې تیرو شلو کالو کې د موږ په شان نور هم ډېر کورنیو فامیلونو ډېر تکالیف ولیدل د امریکایانو او د هغو خلکو لخوا چې په دې امریکایانو په دې ملت باندې تپلي وو او لکه تا چې موږ د زندان یادوري وکړه.
Ashraf Ghani, he's the youngest son of the Taliban co-founder Jalaluddin Haqqani. His release about 2 years ago almost secured the US-Taliban withdrawal agreement in February 2020.
یو نفر به دلته اوسېدو او 15 کاله به دې کې 4 کاله مسلسل ما د تنهایۍ ژوند تېر کړ. کوټه کولپۍ وې چې هغه ډېر د سختۍ ځای و او دغسې بیا په زندان کې نور قسمه تکالیف و.
All around you have remnants, orange overalls that the prisoners used to wear. This guy's sitting on a punching bag that the prisoners and the inmates made, improvised and made it themselves. You've got other things as well. Clothes lining up, some washing detergent there, towels all over, prayer mats, as well as a lot of religious books. We saw some Qurans lying on the side as well. It's a complete mess. To think that 30 to 40 people were living in each one of these units, this cell, it's a communal cell, and they have dozens of them all over the place. Outside they had a bit of an outdoor recreational area, but they were under constant surveillance from above. Above them, an iron mesh that allowed prison guards to walk between the cells and keep a constant eye on the inmates below.
Neither a nation nor a government will accept foreign troops in their land, in their capital. The invasion of US with the coalition forces was somehow a curse for Afghanistan's pride, for Afghanistan's nation.
We heard a huge explosion in the city center, which is around 25-30 minutes from here, and it came apparently from this. This is all part of something called Camp Eagle, which also housed a CIA Black Ops site. The CIA spent more than $200,000 converting a brick factory into this base in 2002. 3 months later, prisoners were being subjected to what US President George W. Bush's administration called enhanced interrogation techniques.
We haven't had strong institutions, neither on political power base nor on the economical basis. We never had a democratic government. The elections that happened, they were all for a man to be elected, not for a political party to be elected. So we had elections, we had democracy without any political party as a player. Secondly, the civil society, for example, media, all of them were project-based. They were more than a profit organization than a non-profit organizations. It also created a kind of NGO mafia in Afghanistan.
Celebratory gunfire all around Kabul. And they're reloading the guns, firing it. They've been continuing that for about an hour now when we broke the news of the last American military aircraft taking off from... There you go.
The last C-17 lifted off from Hamid Karzai International Airport on August 30th, this afternoon, at 3:29 p.m. East Coast time. Tonight's withdrawal signifies both the end of the military component of the evacuation, but also the end of the nearly 20-year mission that began in Afghanistan shortly after September 11th, 2001. The cost was 2,461 U.S. service members and civilians killed, and more than 20,000 who were injured.
Assalamu alaikum. Walking past the Taliban towards Kabul's airport. It's just hours after the last American soldiers departed after 20 years in Afghanistan. This is, of course, this side was restricted to us the last time, but now you can just walk in, see government vehicles standing there, some military vehicles standing here, busted. Picture of Hamid Karzai, the man after whom this airport is named. And I guess we're just going to walk onto the tarmac. From the passenger terminal, we are transported to the military area of the airport, where the last US plane took off. So we are riding in the car on the tarmac of what used to be the airport, and our ride is provided by these guys. Say hello. Who are taking us, these are the guys that are in control basically of this area, and there are hundreds of them all around. Parked on the tarmac are dozens of helicopters of all shapes and sizes. You guys want to see something really interesting? Check that out. American Chinook carrier aircraft at what used to be controlled by the Americans is now under the control of the Taliban after the Americans left, ending their 20-year presence here. And what they left behind here was stuff like this. Also, they're getting their pictures taken in front of the choppers, and this is what the Americans did with the aircraft that they couldn't take with them. After 20 years of American occupation, the Taliban will need to quickly figure out what it needs to do to get things moving at the airport again. But it also needs to ensure it doesn't end up moving in circles instead of going forward.
بیا هم اوس یو امتحاني دوره ده. حکومت داري ډېره وړتیا او ظرفیت غواړي، ډېر فکر غواړي. د ولس خدمت دی، د دین خدمت دی په دې وطن کې، د مسلمانانو خدمت دی، د ظالم لاس د ظلم نه نیول دی، د مظلوم سره کومک دی. دا ډېره امتحاني دوره ده، یقینا چې ده.
Desperate scenes outside one of Kabul's larger banks, the Azizi Bank, as people line up outside to get money out. There's a limit to how much money they can get out, and it's creating a lot of problems, especially for businesses. This country is facing an economic crunch. The price of food is going up, commodities are rising, it's becoming extremely expensive to live here and to feed a family.
People were fearing that when US NATO forces were in Afghanistan and we were not stabilized, how can we be stabilized economically, politically, and socially after their withdrawal? That fear doesn't come from fighting insecurity. That fear comes from the insecurity of not having enough food, not having enough education, not having enough work opportunities.
It's the first day of trading at the Sarai Shahzada. It's the largest currency exchange, money exchange market in Kabul. It was shut for 3 weeks since Ashraf Ghani's government fled Afghanistan and the Taliban walked into Kabul. And now activity is continuing, but in the shadow of all of Afghanistan's foreign exchange reserves having been frozen by foreign governments.
We wish that because the central bank money is freezed by the World Bank, we wish that inshallah the money of the central bank become unfreezed, everything become normal.
Having a stabilized government, having a population which can understand the interest of their country, having a government which can believe in their country, it will take time.
The Taliban are not the same Taliban of the 1990s, but that's mostly true of some, especially those who we negotiated with. They're more worldly. But there are other factions where some commanders who were less exposed to the world. They are more hardline. And it's in that struggle that the future of Afghanistan will be decided.
Taliban would need a lot of weeks, months to have a grip on the political, economical, social structures of Afghanistan and to run the country to a direction that can give hope to people. So Taliban, from changing from a gunman to a policeman, will take a bit time.
This is the Taliban's elite Badri 313 Brigade. The Taliban says Badri 313 is the future of a group whose fighters have looked like this since the Taliban first emerged in 1994. If you're wondering why these Taliban fighters don't look like your average Taliban fighter, well, it's because of a concerted effort by the Taliban leadership to unite disparate Taliban groups into one unified fighting force.
So we have our own country and we need an army.
Sohaib Saeed is an officer in Badri 313. He's fluent in 5 languages and is a new type of Taliban fighter.
First thing, you have to be a martyrdom seeker. You know, a mustashid, we say mustashid, and the foreigner says the suicide attackers. You need to be a martyrdom seeker, mustashid, to be a member of Badri 313 unit.
Aren't all Taliban martyrdom seekers or fidain?
Actually, all of them are like that. But as a unit, organizedly, this unit is specified for that mission. I lost my brother, and I'm ready to lose myself as well. But I have values. I would defend my values. Values more important for me than my life.
The unit has an estimated 5,000 fighters who go through rigorous training in urban warfare and how to conduct suicide attacks.
There are strains, there are resentments, there are people within the Taliban leadership that they want a different Taliban in political arena than in military structure that they had.
I'm an instrument for the realization of my people's wishes and aspirations, and I need to take the risks.
I would like to offer my personal appreciation to the more than 800,000 service members and 25,000 civilians who have served in Afghanistan.
اوس هغه لوی سبب چې د پردی وجود دلته و چې د دې خاورې د ولس مسلم حق و چې دغه خپل وطن آزاد کړي هغه الحمدلله اوس حاصل شوی دی.